I just kept saying, it's cancer. She said, it's cancer. She said, it's cancer. And the one thing I didn't want to do since getting the diagnosis was, please don't let me do chemo. I do not want to lose my hair. It took me a long time to appreciate my hair. And so it just was a very big thing to be like, wait, you can't, I don't want it taken from me.
Travel has always been Nicole's biggest teacher.
I see the mountains and I see the seas and I see the cities as love letters to me. I love learning about people and I love learning about myself through other people's eyes.
Then cancer became her biggest test.
I was oppressed, but I was not going to let cancer have the final word.
Hi, I'm Allie from The Patient Story. A cancer diagnosis is devastating no matter your age or your stage. It happened to my daughter at age 1. It happened to Nicole at age 41.
She was a self-employed career coach, living a full and vibrant life before cancer.
I think the word I get most is bubbly, which I've gotten since I was young. I love bringing joy. I love bringing people together, building community. I started my career at the Food Network in New York City, in Manhattan, downtown. It was so cool. But then I wanted to move back to the Bay Area. It was 8 years at Genentech, the highlight of my career. I worked in oncology, met amazing physicians, nurses, and salespeople who were changing the face of cancer in real time.
Then, years later,
I felt a lump on my right breast when I was in the shower. I was, it was one of those things where I was like washing, you're just kind of doing your thing. I was not being super responsible and doing a breast test and all those things. I hadn't even had my first mammogram. And I was like, well, this feels weird. I felt it. I felt it on this part of my wrist. And I was like, well, that feels weird that there's something there. And so you kind of think about it, but it never happens to you. It's not supposed to happen to you. So I didn't think too much. But then I mentioned it to my best friend and I was like, it just feels weird. There's like this thing here. And she was like, let me feel it. And, as girls are wont to do. And so I was like, what do you think? And she's like, it feels like a blueberry. I had a trip to Milan scheduled and I really didn't want to miss it. I actually thought to myself, if this is cancer, I don't want them to tell me I can never travel again. So I actually went to Milan for 2 months, knowing that this lump was here. I wasn't telling anybody, because obviously I would be irresponsible. There'd be so many things. There is a fear. You don't think it's going to be you, but you're like, also, if it is me, I just don't want to face it, maybe. And I don't want it to uproot my life, even though this is a very big deal. Cancer is a big deal. I knew something was different with my body. And I just was living in this sort of dream world. And as I was there, I was like, this just feels weirder. I just kept feeling weirder and weirder. And so I did leave a little bit earlier to come home. And that's actually when I showed it to my mom. And then that week I went into my physician and she was like, okay, we'll see, you're due for your first mammogram. We did an ultrasound and a mammogram. It was very interesting because the radiologist came in. She was like, this feels suspect. You need to come in for a biopsy. And I was like, okay. And kind of no surprise. I had friends who were like, oh no, I've had to have a biopsy before. But then they walked me into the nurse navigator's office. And I was like, why am I here? Because I went by myself. My mom didn't think that she needed to come to my first mammogram with me. And I'm just sitting in this office and she's like, if this is cancer, these are the next steps you take. And I was like, I'm so confused as to why we would be talking about this. And so I got home because we had family dinner at my mom's house every Tuesday. So all my appointments were on Tuesday. I got home, my brother's there, my 2 nieces are there, my mom is there, my sister-in-law had a night off. And I just started crying. Absolutely started. Because I think I knew then what it was. Got the biopsy on a Monday. I had my annual physical on a Wednesday. And they were like, there's no way that we'll know by Wednesday. I had an appointment on Friday. And I found out on that Wednesday that it was cancer. And I'm sitting there in one of those paper gowns ready to have a pap smear. And she was like, do you still want your pap smear? And I was like, yeah. I'm self-employed. I pay for my own insurance. I was already imagining my deductible going through the roof. I had to have my own insurance. So I just remember being there and then I was shocked and then I just started crying. And she was like, can I hug you? And I was like, that's the least you could do. I just was stunned. And I didn't know where to go or what to do. I texted my friend Kirk, and then I immediately called my friend Elaine, who was one of my nurses from Genentech, hematology nurse. And she talked me off the ledge because my doctor also didn't know too much about. She was like, all I know is that it's cancer. I can't really tell you anything else. So I was like, okay. So I drove to my brother's office and I just kept saying, it's cancer. She said, it's cancer. She said, it's cancer. And I just was I was also crying there. I was also a bit hysterical, but you're kind of in shock of like this, what is happening? Like this shock was absolutely overwhelming. I even told my brother, who is a financial advisor and therefore my financial advisor, like, this is not what I saved my money for. And he was like, in fact, it's exactly what you saved your money for. Because I'm like, I'm supposed to be traveling. And it sets up off a ripple. It's life altering. It changes the trajectory of your life. Stage 1, DCIS. My team was like, if you could have any diagnosis for breast cancer, I mean, not that you want one, this is the one to have, because it's like run the mill. We got it. We can treat it.
Nicole maintained her bubbly disposition.
I would go to different appointments and they'd be like, were you just diagnosed? Because I would be like, to me, to be alive is a blessing. That's it.
As she moved through appointments,
my surgeon who I met was like, oh, we can get this. It's in a great place. It's going to be a lumpectomy, not a mastectomy, all these things.
Nicole had one big looming fear.
Please don't let me do chemo. I do not want to lose my hair. I kept saying to everybody, I don't care how sick I get with chemo. I don't care about all the horror stories with chemo. I can be throwing up in the toilet for 21 days straight as long as I don't have to lose my hair. My surgeon was like, 6 months ago, this wasn't here. It was a fast growing, aggressive tumor. And she told me that I saved my own life. She said, if you had waited even a couple more months, this would be a totally different conversation. So while I was sitting in Milan being like, should I not? Like, it was growing exponentially at a 40% rate, which is quite high. Because it was a fast growing tumor, within 13 days, it was out. So I had an MRI to make sure it didn't spread. There were so many appointments that I did. Then I thought, oh, we're going to be totally fine. No lymph node involvement. They had clear margins. They got it right out. My surgeon called my mom and told me that I was cancer-free. My oncologist was like, okay, you're on the cusp.
Nicole was given a choice, whether or not to do the thing she dreaded the most.
Chemo was preventative. I needed it only to cut down my recurrence rate. I thought about it. I prayed about it. My mom gave me space to think about it. And then I decided, I was like, okay, we'll have to do it. We're going to do chemo. But for me, a big personality with big energy, my big curly hair was a huge part of my life. And I think too, speaking to being mixed race, it took me a long time to appreciate my hair. And so it just was a very big thing to be like, wait, I don't want it taken from me. I know my body is resilient. And my friends even said, because of my traveling, I have never gotten sick traveling. I mean, we're talking street food in Thailand, I've never gotten sick, because I didn't really get sick during chemo. I did the usual 3 days afterwards. I was lethargic. Again, my body just felt weird. To me, it was like, I don't want people to look at me and be like, she's sick. Even after chemo, I mean, how long would it take for my hair to grow back? You know what I mean? Like years. I was blessed that I did cold capping and it totally worked for me. That was a blessing that they have that now. And my sorority sisters pitched in, they helped pay for it because it is a pricey thing. My hair was in braids, just like soft braids my entire time. Anytime you see me in a cold cap, you'll see me in braids. A huge heartbreak for me was my mom was the one who washed my hair, because we did it in the sink. I never got into the shower. When you wash, right, no matter what you do, something's going to come out. I just kept thinking what it must be like for her to be taking care of her adult child with the hair coming out. So this was all happening through the holidays. My birthday's in January. My 42nd birthday was, I guess, after round 3. And that was the first time I saw bald spots here. Like, I could see it. My mom was like, no one else can tell. And I was like, I can tell. Going through it, I was like, well, it's only stage 1. It's a pretty handleable, if that's a word, treatment. And my nurses would always be like, no.
Nicole completed 4 rounds of chemo. Then
21 days of radiation. My mom just stepped into action. My mom was a single mom, very strong, very resilient. During radiation, I would walk to the women's center. It took 45 minutes, but I was like, I am going to still keep my walks up and I'm going to keep doing it. And she would say that she would watch me walk by myself and she would get teary. So there was a space between of her wanting to take care of me and her letting me be myself. I mean, we're 2 strong women and our relationship has never been better because she learned how to soften for me and I learned how to soften for her. There is a book called The Beauty and the Breaking, and I think it's the idea that I can now sit with people who have gone through deep grief and heartbreak. If you allow it, it can be the most beautiful thing that comes out of your life. And for me, it was. Because I became a softer person, I became a more understanding person, I became a more empathetic person, I became somebody who understands grief. To sit with people in deep sadness and deep grief is something you can only get going through it. And I would say that I think that this experience has been the most beautifying experience of my life.
Thank you, Nicole, for sharing your story. If you were moved by Nicole's story, we also think you'll enjoy this story here. It's queued up on your screen. Also, don't forget to subscribe right here to the patient story so you can be among the first to watch all of our new videos.